Krishna. Welcome to today's overview of the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, entitled The Opulence of the Absolute. This is an extremely beautiful chapter and a very favorable one for increasing our remembrance of Krishna all the time. It's specifically designed to do that. These opulences that the Lord is explaining now in detail will help us in seeing Krishna everywhere in everything. And that is the platform for pure devotional service. So it's a very, very helpful chapter. And I think we're going to find this is through slides and a little bit of interaction because there's so many images. There are 82 opulences in this chapter, plus many important verses, the 4 key verses to the entire Bhagavad-Gita. The chapter is opulent in and of itself philosophically, what to speak of what Krishna is presenting in terms of appreciating him. And as Srila Prabhupada said, unless you know his opulences, you cannot fully engage in pure unalloyed devotional service. So those of us who have been blessed to have received this knowledge through the Prabhupada's books and purports, we're very, very fortunate in that we're trying to attain pure unalloyed devotional service. We have quite a few steps to cover and share with you today. As you know, these overviews are more interactive and more multisensory than a normal lecture, so it requires a little participation, but that participation is actually meant for increased retention, which is what we need. We have to have content to think of Krishna, to remember him. So that is what we're sharing here. And what we'll do first is we will just talk about the things that will happen in this next hour. So the first thing we'll just do a walk through the materials, because we say this is multisensory, so you have to have something in hand, hard copy. It's very helpful. Sometimes we have technology, but sometimes there's no connection, right? So a hard copy for study. And all of the study guide outlines that we use are coming from the Bhakti Shastri. They're based on that. But this, too, is a more in-depth and detailed extension of that type of information. So for those of you who have studied that way or ever hope to, if you keep these, we create these little ring files, so you can keep them. They're very good for your study of more serious study. Is this correct? Okay. Everybody with me so far? So we'll be going through the study guide to walk through that. Then after that, we'll be focusing on our two types of themes. Themes in terms of the chapter and themes in terms of the way we approach our study. I like to try to create little analogy slides so we can see the connection as to why we do things the way we do. So there are 2 types of theme slides, quite a few of those, and a lot of time is spent on what we call mastering the skeleton, memorizing the structure. That is what's considered the first law of study. And if you think about a book, it's done that way. There'll be the title cover page, right? But inside the table of contents. So experts do that. They memorize the contents. And then everything else has a place. It's categorized. It's organized. Without organization, information tends to be scattered and random. It's harder to find, difficult to remember. So remember, the first principle is memorize the skeleton. What is it? Yeah, the skeleton, the structure. So we'll be looking at when an architect will do a building. He knows every room, every place, everything. He knows so much, but from a drawing, we couldn't tell a thing. So by memorizing the structure of these chapters, we will understand where the information goes, how it flows sequentially through the verses, and why it's important. This is knowledge that's eternal. By hearing what we have covered today, this knowledge is never lost. And not only that, it's purifying. So there's no end to the benefits of hearing Bhagavad-Gita. Okay? So we'll be going through that. We'll be, again, talking about our theme slides for both instructional objectives as well as the chapter. And then we will be going specifically to a page called Retention Objectives. That's a new feature of our study guides, where we have a list of the things you should know before you leave. If you try to just sit and listen to a class, you may remember, if you're fortunate, after 8 hours, they say 20%. So we incorporate other methods to increase retention. It does seem to help. People have said it does. All right, so we will be doing that. Then after that, we will be going through the slokas. And then we have some what I call memory slides from almost 2 years ago to date, practically, on the 10th chapter, in which we covered all of the 82 opulences with a slide. So you'll be getting a visual reinforcement of the words. It always helps. As they say, picture's worth 1,000 words. So we'll just put this on, and then you can put it down. Thank you. It's really gorgeous. Okay, everybody follow so far? Most of you look like familiar faces, so you've gone through this process before. All right, so our first thing is our quick walk through the study guide, so you know what's in it. Any good student will quickly scan through his materials. We have them in 2 parts, so they don't fall apart, right? Okay. First part, okay, you've got the cover page, and inside you have the very important page, your retention objectives checklist with a little place for you to mark. Have I learned that today for long-term memory, not short-term, okay? Then you have the study bank. That's been traditional. This is an older version. Some materials are updated, some are from 2 years ago. So you have updates mixed with what we call previous presentations. You have that, which includes, again, objectives, information, structure, sequence, themes, and looking at things through different angles of vision. Prabhupada stressed that as part of our study. Then we have the slokas, and we've done this also. This is very different. We have, each sloka has what we call a title word. So you see sloka number 1. What do you see? You see that page here? Yeah, friend. What I did was I go through the sloka, and I try to find what seems to be the essence word. And then we use that to make our slides go more quickly and more effectively. We just use that number, that word, and a picture. That way you can do a quick walk through the chapter. Okay? So you'll be seeing 42 slides like that. And you can follow along here. And you'll see the word repeated in the verse, underscored and bold-faced and capitalized. So it stands out. You see it twice. So you see friend, and then you see friend again. Right? And we've added little icons. That helps break up the text. Usually people get too much text and they can't read it all. They're too busy anymore. Unless something is short, with images, people don't have time. That's what they're used to seeing on their phones, on their tablets, and they will disregard it. It's like a traffic jam for the mind. They won't do it. So we're trying to address those types of things. Okay, so we're going through the verses like that, and you see the verses are divided according to the structure or the skeleton. It's a box, it's a category. Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, and Section 4. This chapter has 4 divisions. Okay? Then the next section after that is the key memory verses. There are the 4 nutshell verses, and those are the only ones presented. There were no thematic verses. Sometimes we'll get up to 19 verses that are important. Last chapter were 19 verses. Here we have the 4 nutshell verses. Okay? Chatur Shloki. So those are there, and you have a little chart before and after. So you know, again, the numbers, things to help you remember. And also the sloka in English is done with icons. Okay? Definitions goes for a long time. I did this 2 years ago, and what we do for this is we go through the purport by structure. Okay? By structure. Anything Srila Prabhupada says in there that's a philosophical point or a word that needs special definition, that's there for you. So that way, if you go through, you can see whatever other words he defined, like bhakti-yoga, that was a big one. He defines that for 1010 very extensively. Karma yoga, jnana yoga, how does he define those? So you get his definition, right? So that section there. This, again, reference. This is not meant for our overview. It's like a book. Book will have many features. You can't cover them all. But they're there for reference. Then the second part, we try to divide it into the number of pages. Second part, we have analogies and examples. I made only 4 slides for that. But many, many, many of these, again, by section, where Prabhupada will use an analogy or an example to make the philosophical point clear. Okay? Krishna's opulences. All right. So once we know the structure, all this will make sense. Then we have values, objectives, checklist. This is very extensive. This is your personal assessment section, where am I? Am I at Shraddha? Am I at Anartha-nivritti? Most likely we all are. Are we at Bhav? If we were in Prem, I don't think we'd be sitting here. Right? We'd probably be back in the spiritual world. But it's nice to know, and you get a rating, a way to rate yourself. Do I always do it, never do it, sometimes do it, often do it? You can see, because these are things Prabhupada gives as the criterion for elevation in consciousness. Krishna consciousness is an elevating process. It's gradual, but it has to be progressive. We don't want to stop, get off the elevator at the wrong floor. We want to keep going until the perfectional stage, which is, you know your Swarup, you see Krishna, and you're engaging eternally in your service in the spiritual world. That's not a cheap thing. Okay, so it's a long, long process and full of a lot of dangers on the way. All right, next section is the list of cited verses. This is a new feature in our study guides. This is presented online also. Each sloka by number, how many times Srila Prabhupada quotes it with the opening line in Sanskrit. So you have that there. You can see which verses are quoted a lot. Sometimes not so many, sometimes many, hundreds of times. Some of the slokas Srila Prabhupada quotes hundreds of times. The scriptural references, especially in this section, quite a few, because in this one, Prabhupada is referring to all of the other shastras that confirm that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? He has to verify that, and no authorized person speaks without shastric reference. He won't open his mouth unless he can back it up. So you'll find many references for sloka number 10.8, the first one. Sarvasya Prabhavo, proving, yes, from other shastras, yes, I am the source of everything. Okay, and then you have before and after little charts, little quizzes for you in the activity sections, the chart with the breakdown, you see the 4 topics, and then below it a blank. So you can cover the one and say, well, do I know the 4 breakdowns? Do I know this? Have I memorized the skeleton? Okay, and then we do it also by numerical code. So you do it by pictures, and we also do it by code. Codes are simpler, but without the pictures, sometimes we don't remember the code. Okay, so you've got both ways. Then you have, again, before and after, key memory verses 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, 10:08 is easy because it's 108 gopis, right? Okay, then after that, what are the themes in this chapter? And we see 6 little stars. This chapter has 6 themes, and some of the most important ones would be levels of knowledge, because we've come down to the topmost platform, and levels of God realization, obviously, Bhagavan realization. Defeating impersonalism. How could you read this chapter after Krishna, 82 times says, I am, I am, I am, I am. And in the beginning, I am, I am, I am. Who is I? It's like the impersonal Brahman? No. So this is very, very important chapter for defeating impersonalism, which unfortunately is rampant in India. I don't know how they come to the conclusion. Obviously faulty knowledge. Or impure, probably it's impurity of the knowledge. Then we have here a chart I did 2 years ago, and it's fun. It's learner friendly, and it's actually could be for even young learners. We'll be doing this. It's called a taxonomy. A taxonomy is a classification of information. It's used often in botany, biology. Animals are classified according to species or whatever. So here, to make it easier, because you've got 82 opulences, how do I keep that straight? So this little chart, we'll be taking a look at it. And this makes it a little simple. For instance, for animals, right? You'll see 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, they may not be in order that way, but it just helps make it simpler. From the 82 opulences, how many are animals? How many are birds, fish, snakes, plants, right? Material creations, qualities. And on the back, you'll see still more. Very helpful. Incarnations, sages, demigods, demons, scriptures, mantras, and time. You'll find that of the 5 essential truths, 4 are very big in this chapter, right? Krishna, Jiva, Prakriti is always, those 3. Every chapter will deal with those 3. Krishna is the original source of both material and spiritual. And the jivas are marginal. They're the ones that have to decide, do we go up or do we stay down? That's our choice. Okay. We're here at the point where we have to make the decision. Karma bhumi, and the particular human form is the one choice is possible. So we are important to know that how should we make our choices. Okay, so that helpful? You got that. All right, now let's take a look at the next thing, some of our theme slides. You have that, bye-bye. Okay. Is that how we've got this section? Well, this is, of course, most important. From the title slide alone, there's much to be learned, right? Okay, so what else do we have? Some of the other ones? Take that. And that's also from the title. But I want to go, okay, yeah, here. This is important. This is our structure, okay? But I think some more, okay? And this is, we also have this. We have that, and we've talked about those, all right? I don't know that we've got to think. Yes, we'll be learning in this chapter, we'll be learning the 7 great sages. There's many opulent chapter, actually. Okay, next. The 4 Kumaras are mentioned, the 25 patriarchs. Okay, next. There are 14 Manus. Next. Okay, these are, and we'll have the sloka slide. This is how we proceed, and this is what your sloka slides look like. And this is the chart, the original chart. Okay, next, what else do we have in this folder? Is that it? Okay, where are the theme slides that show the curtain and that section? There we go. All right, here's our choice. Probably the most famous line in Western drama is from Shakespeare. To be or not to be. Everybody who ever studied Shakespeare, that's the most famous line in all of playwright history. So that's pretty much what it boils down to for us. Every moment. Are we in Krishna consciousness or are we not? So that's our choice. That's the question. And Hare Krishna is the answer. To be or not to be. Every moment we're being calculated and assessed by the devas and by Krishna to go up or stay down. So we have to be conscious that it's a moment-to-moment decision. It's not just an initiation or a death. In between, we're creating our destiny. So it's very important that we take full advantage of every moment as an opportunity for elevation. Okay, Krishna conscious theme. This is an important one. This theme we stressed in the last chapter. We're going to elaborate on it a little bit. There's a principle in design, whether you're making a garland, jewelry, when the Lord appears. The midpoint is the important part, the middle. So we talked about that last chapter, and I'll show it again. It is in the tablet. And also symmetry is an important point universally in how things are done. Prabhupada said symmetry is beauty. So here, you see a necklace. Now, why did I show that? Well, it's opulent, right? But you see the midpoint. It can either be a single point, but not only. Usually, there will be things around it that go from large to smaller. Okay? You see it on the necklace? You'll see many like that, or garlands are like that. There'll be a big cluster and then some big, and then it's simpler towards the back. This we will see. Now, why did I do this? Very important point. In this chapter, it begins, Krishna saying, now I'm going to tell you information that's better than what I told you before. But we thought we hit the high point with 9, right? That was the most confidential knowledge. That's the center of the Gita and the center of the Mahabharata. It's right in the middle, protected. So why is this better? Well, the point is here. This is 9 is the middle. But on either side, 8 and 10, they will be very important. This one will lead up to this, and this one will elaborate on it. Do you understand the principle? Because in this one, this information is more, he says, better because it's specific. One criterion for evaluating literature is the language precise? If you read a book and everything was nice, good, okay, wonderful, it's not a good book, right? But a good author will use very specific details to explain what he wants to say. So in this chapter, Krishna is being specific. I've told you I have many opulences. Now I will identify them for your remembrance. And after he's done that, he'll say, but forget it all. This is just a spark. But he does it at Arjuna's request. So do you understand the principle? And why we showed the necklace? Because in the middle of almost any section, not only of a chapter, but in a day of Brahma, when does Krishna come? In the midpoint. The middle of the day, when Brahma's having lunch, probably, midday. And also, when does the sun go to the zenith? Midday. When does digestion reach the best? Midday. It's the high point. Even in drama, the high point is in the middle. Everything after that is called falling action. So we don't want the falling action to be boring and everybody walks out. It has to still be interesting. So it's more detailed. First part of the Gita is karma yoga, then bhakti in the middle, then gyan. Gyan is very specific, isn't it? Much more difficult. Much more difficult. So everybody understand the principle, right? At the center point, and then these high points on either side. Is that helpful now? All right, so you'll have to understand this chapter in context poetically, not only practically, as well as philosophically. Because so many people ask, well, why is this better? Right? So we have to know. It's specific, very detailed, it's rich. Okay, next. And here's an old slide saying the same thing. Design, emphasis, and symmetry. Those are principles of design. You'll see them in architecture, art, garlands, beautiful, or when Lord Chaitanya comes, when Krishna comes, in the middle. Okay, next point. Yeah, here you see an action, dramatic pattern. Rising action, falling action. Any play is like that. Next. Okay, now another thing we do, these are famous quotes. A picture is worth how many words? 1,000 words. So we emphasize pictures a lot because it does help. We can talk about Krishna all the time, but if you see Radhe Shyam, it's interesting. You get the idea, right? Or you see a picture. Another famous sloka, or a maxim, actions speak louder than words. Is that true? Yes. People walk their talk, or do they not? So sometimes we use signals, and people say, well, that looks a little childish, but actually it's kinesthetic. And by an action, that's why people go to dramas, and we remember things more if the body is involved, not just the mind. Okay? So those are the two. There's a picture of a sweet, right? A picture, it looks good. But until I eat it, do I taste it? No. So by doing things, we experience it. That's our little study theme slide. Actions speak louder than words. And a picture is worth how many? 1,000 words. Okay, next theme slide. Structure. This is an architectural drawing of St. Peter's in Rome. Now, the architect knows where everything is. If you look at the outside of that building, you won't have a clue. But if you know the structure of this chapter, you'll have a clue as to what's in it. Okay, next. That was the theme slide. Oh, 747. That's an airplane. Why did she put that in there? Who wants to have any idea? You see the 747 on the plane? Okay, have anybody heard of the plane 747? Raise your hand. You've heard of 747? Anybody else? First time, right? What's the number again? 747. It was an older version. Now they have all kinds of numbers on Boeing planes. But this at one time was the biggest plane, right? If you're from the West, you would know. You probably flew this airplane. And then what's your last number? Okay, how many hours in a day? Okay, so what are the four numbers? 747 and 24/7. Okay, these are the numbers for the numbers of slokas in this chapter. We try to find fun ways for you to remember. So how many slokas are in the first section? And in the chapter sloki, how many? 4. And how many in the next section? And how many in the last section? Okay, so what are the four numbers? 747 and 24. Does that help you? Okay. Anything, we try anything that helps us remember, well, what's the structure? Somebody said, well, why is that important? Well, if you're looking for a home address, it helps to know the number. Okay, next. And these are the breakdowns now. Those are opulences, pearls. Krishna's position, 7 slokas. Nutshell verses, how many? 4. And Arjuna's acceptance, how many? 7. Good. And Krishna's opulences? 24. Yes, 24. Okay. 24 slokas. Actually, 82 opulences are listed. Okay, next. And this is an old one. Prabhupada's lectures, I only had 2 recorded ones, but this is very helpful. In that lecture, Prabhupada says, the devas can't know Krishna, the demigods, the demigods don't know him, the sages don't know him. How can we know him? 2 ways. Sevanmukhi jivado, the tongue. Now, normally we think hearing is how to learn about Krishna. We do, right? But actually, to actively know Krishna, you have to use what? The tongue. And what do you do with the tongue? Chant and what? Take prasadam. He stresses that. Is that easy to do? No, chant and take prasadam. So that, he says, anybody can do it at home. You can chant at home, you can offer your food at home and honor prasadam, and you will become God realized. Simple? Yes. Krishna makes it very easy. All right? And there we have a beautiful plate of something to offer Krishna. And that is the quote. Chaitanya Charitamrita there. Yes, by blunt senses you cannot know the Lord, but through the tongue he can be realized by chanting and by tasting prasadam. Okay, next. Okay, now we have these little button slides. This is to help us get an understanding of where we are. Okay, where are we? If we're the yellow button, what mode are we in? Everybody? Goodness, right? And what are we? Happy. So if anybody in the room is not happy, what's the problem? So I hope you're all smiling. Everybody smiling? Yes. Yay! Okay, so you're all in goodness. Okay, if somebody's looking like a little green there, he's in passion, how will he be? He'll always be in distress. According to the Bhagavad-Gita, he has to be distressed. So people walking around that look distressed, what mode are they in? Passion. What about the last one? Ignorance. What does that person look like? What's he like? He's in madness. And most of the planet is just going crazy, right? So that's how we detect the modes, by the face. The face is the index of the mind, right? So do we want to be the yellow one or the green one or the red one? Yellow one, very good. Okay, does that help you? Okay, next slide. We're going to use the same buttons. This is what happens, different levels of God realization. If you're in Krishna consciousness, what do you feel? Loud? Louder? Bliss. Yes, that's the highest position. What if you're aware of super soul? Relief. Right? Relief. Neutrality. What if you're in the modes? Suffering. Guaranteed. Adhyatmika, adhibodhika, adhidevika. So which one do you want? Krishna. Right. This chapter will help you. If you're in the modes, you're going to experience what? Suffering. If you at least are aware of super soul, you'll be neutral. You'll get relief. But if you're in full Krishna consciousness, you'll be what? Blissful. Which one do you want to be? Everybody? Blissful. I hope so. Right? Okay, next one. Last one. Krishna. The modes we see things in duality. Good, bad, man or woman, friend, enemy. That'll tell us. That guy, I don't like him. That means you're still in the modes, right? If you're super soul, what are you? Neutral, yes. Equipoise. But if you're in Krishna consciousness, what's the platform? Absolute, because Krishna is everything. You transcend that. It's hard to understand, but it's the reality. Does those help you a little bit? These are a check. Where am I? And what do I want to be? Okay, next. These are our little theme slides. I guess that's pretty much it. Okay? All righty. And then we have a nice video at the end. Wonderful video. Early video of Prabhupada at the Mishra Ashram, upstate New York. And the reason I chose it, not only because it's gorgeous, but because they said the only time Prabhupada wasn't laughing and smiling was when he was chanting and when he was cooking and serving prasadam. He was so serious, very serious. And you'll see that. And you'll see how beautiful Prabhupada was. Very first experience in America. How blissful he was. Beautiful. Okay? All right. So now let us go to our retention checklist. Let's do that. These are the things you must know today. You ready? Okay, turn to your study guide. And we will be filling this out. If you've got your pen with you. All right. The first are the most basic things you need to know about Chapter 10. If you walk out of here, somebody said, well, what did you learn? Number one, I learned the chapter title. What is it? The opulence of the what? Put a check mark if you know it. Do you know it? Okay, everybody got it? The opulence of the absolute. Opulence means something that attracts. Bhagavan. He's full of 6 opulences, and now he's going to be specific. Not just wealth, beauty, fame, knowledge, strength, renunciation. Now he will tell you in detail how he is opulent. Number 2. What chapter number? 10. Mark it if you know it. What chapter are we in, everybody? 10. See, this is our orientation. It's just like, where am I now? I'm sitting in the library of Prabhupada's house in Krishna Balaram compound, right? Where am I in this chapter? 10. How big is it? How many verses? 42. How many of you are older than 42? How many younger? You don't want to say. All right, we're going few. All right. It seemed like at one point 42 was old, but now when you're older, it's like, this is really young, you know? Because everything's relative. Okay, 42 verses. What section of the Bhagavad-Gita? There are 3. Which one? Louder? Bhakti-yoga. Very good. Because there are people who aren't sitting here that if they hear you on the radio, they know somebody's awake right, and learning, right? And now that we just pick one word for the topics. How many topics are there? 4. Remember, this is if I know the boxes, I know where things go. So these are the little boxes. First box, what's the word? Origin. Origin of everything, not just 1 or 2 things. Everything. What's number 2? Chaturshloki. The whole philosophy in 4 verses. And what's number 3? Yes, this is Arjuna. I accept what you tell me. We have to be like Arjuna to be in the parampara, because he's recreating it. Krishna spoke the Gita to Arjuna. He didn't speak to any sages. He spoke to his friend, he's a Kshatriya on a battlefield. He's the beginner of the new parampara. So we have to be like Arjuna. We accept. And we also ask questions. Because he asks questions. Yes, please describe your opulences so I can remember you. And what's the last section? Your opulences. How many altogether, remember? 82. Okay, so now you know the structure. Okay, what was the first word again? Origin. Everything. Who is he? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the next section is what? Chaturshloki. And the third section is what? Right. This one is, I accept Arjuna's. Whatever you tell me, the Deva said it, Narada said it, now you're saying it, I believe it. And the final section is what? 24 verses that incorporate 82 specific opulences. Okay? Raise your hand. Did you learn something so far? Anybody learn something? Raise your hand. You all knew? Okay. Did you learn something? You know English? Everybody find one thing at least you learned? Okay, good. It's important to think, yes, I did learn that. That's new. All right, now let's go down. I like to use numbers again. What do we have for number 1? The Supreme Lord. Krishna is, that's the first premise. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. And number 2, 2 creations, right? Right? Or 2 creators. Krishna is the primary and Brahma is the secondary. And we have 2 choices. What are they? Eternal life or repeated birth and death. That's it. People say you sound fanatic. Unfortunately, it's a fact. We were supposed to be there, we're here. And we want to try to go back. Next, 3 levels of knowledge. What are they? Brahman, the effulgence. Next, Paramatma, Supersoul, and Bhagavan, Krishna. We all know that you're fortunate. A lot of people aren't there. They're on the Brahman if they're at all. Some don't even think there's God, right? Okay, 4, the Chaturshloki. What are the numbers? 10, 8, 10, 9, 10, and 11. You know that? You can check it off. Give yourself 100% today, right? Okay, next. The 4 Kumaras. Who are they? Yeah, Sanak, Sanatan, and Sanak Kumar. How about the 6 opulences? This is what Krishna is. Bhagavan. What are they? Wealth, right? Right, strength, and knowledge, beauty, fame, and renunciation. Any of those 6, Prabhupada said, they attract people. If you have money, people are attracted. If you're beautiful, people are attracted. Even if you're renounced, they're attracted. So now, Krishna is Bhagavan, but he's going to be very specific. Okay, next. The 7 sages. Okay, we have an easy way to learn this, but these are the stars also. The Saptarishis. You'll see them in the sky. The Big Dipper. The Saptarishis location there. And we'll be looking at a slide to learn those easily. And the total of 25 patriarchs. Look at the numbers. There were 7 sages mentioned, right? 4 Kumaras, and the 14 Manus. So we have charts. Those of you who get the emails, you can get references to all those charts. And total of how many opulences? 82. Okay, who got 100%? Did you get 100%? Okay, you know that. All right. So we've done that now. So we've gone through that. I think the next step would be to start. We do the topics really fast. We'll look again. We've done it somewhat briefly, but take a look at the pictures as well. From the Bhagavad-Gita again, chapter 10, 42 slokas, and we have chosen 10:8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Okay, next. Here we go. 1 to 7 is origin. He's the origin of everything. 7 slokas, he'll tell you that. Then in the Chaturshloki, it's a summary of those 7. Right? And there you see those 7. 10, the first line, 10:8, 10:9, 10:10, and 10:11. These slides, again, all you have to do is be on the email. You have access to these for preaching or for study. What's your third one? Acceptance. I agree. What they say and what you say, I accept. And what's the final one? Yes, you showed us looking into Krishna's mouth, inside and outside. He's everything. Okay, next slide. And there you have a way to test yourself. We have slides that have just some of the information and then totally blank. And what were the numbers again? 747 and 24. That's easy to remember. And you have it in code. Krishna is the origin of everything. Chaturshloki, A, and Arjuna's request. Finally, Krishna's opulences. Okay, last. and you've got a way to test yourself. And there are the themes, levels of knowledge, how to receive it through the parampara. You can't, it's just like without internet, you can't connect your phone. Without parampara, you can't connect with Krishna. And down here, levels of God realization, from Brahman all the way up to Bhagavan. How to defeat impersonalism. Read this chapter. And the relationship between Jiva, Ishvara, and Prakriti. That's in every chapter. Krishna is the origin of everything. And finally, bhakti. This is all about devotional service. Okay? Okay, in topic 1, we've got that. I think we're ready now for the slokas. Are we ready? So now we do a walk through the slokas. Take out your little pamphlet again. Now you're going to reinforce it with some pictures. Again, we'll do some signals, but it's a little hard because some of the words sort of say the same thing. Remember, know, whatever. Okay, so what's the first one? Friend, yes. That is why Krishna speaks to Arjuna. You can only know Krishna if you're in a friendly relationship with him. If you're an enemy or you're envious, he's not going to reveal himself. So he's explaining this because you're my friend. So that's your key word, and if you look at the sloka here, you'll see the whole sloka. We won't try to go through that. It's not practical. You always have the verses. But if you remember the word, friend, that is how to become knowledgeable about Krishna. Okay, and there's the sloka. We want just the, well, you can show that, but go quickly to the next. Okay, next slide. And what is the 2 word? What's your key word? Source. He's the source of what? Everything. And he will tell you that. The demigods and the sages, they do not know, they don't even know who I am. Because why? I'm the source. Just as the flower cannot know the seed from which it grew, we cannot know our source unless we have Shastra. We have to trust what Krishna says and what the Shastras say. And what's the advantage for number 3? Undiluted. If you know Krishna and accept that he is the supreme, guess what? You are all sitting here. Everybody except Krishna is the supreme person. Nobody here's in doubt. Guess what? The benefit. You want to know? You're freed of all sin. You know, people go jump in the Jamuna or they'll take bath in the Ganges. This is the way. To be freed of sin, accept Krishna is the supreme, and believe it. He's the supreme. That's what this sloka is all about. He only is freed of all sins. So you're very fortunate. Number 4. Now there are 20 opulences, qualities listed in these 2 verses. I picked forgiveness, and I try to find a picture that shows that. Now what is that picture all about? Right, there is Lord Chaitanya ready to do what? He's ready to kill, right? Jagai and Madhava. Okay. What does Nityananda do? He stops them. You can't kill them. They're already dead. You have to revive them by the Maha Mantra. You came to save people, not to kill them in this yuga. So the Maha Mantra is very wonderful. It's not violent, and it's meant to revive our God consciousness. All right, so the next slide. And he ends those 20 qualities, and he says, these qualities come from me, both good and bad. So I have a yin-yang slide there. Good and bad. Krishna is everything. Everything. Good and bad are relative. Prabhupada said the only thing good about the material world is if you're in Krishna consciousness. It's all bad. So it's mental concoction. So all these qualities are created by me. So that's the word. What is the word again? Qualities. After he names 20 qualities, fame, infamy, birth, death, right? Forgiveness, so many. Truthfulness, and they're defined beautifully by Prabhupada in the purports. Number 6. Yes, the sages. Those are the sages. They were on the boat in the last Manvantar. And they were connected with Matsya. And they received transcendental knowledge. In each Manvantar, they're different. So in this Manvantara, it's a different group of 7 sages. Okay? And he who is convinced. Are we all convinced? Now, why did I pick that picture? Anybody know? That's Narada talking to who? Vyasadeva. What did he have to do to Vyasadeva? Do you remember? Anybody know? He had to convince Vyasadeva why he was not happy. Why was Vyasadeva not happy? Yeah, he hadn't glorified Krishna. He wrote the Mahabharata. He divided all the Vedas, but he was still feeling empty at heart. And Narada came and he convinced him, unless you glorify the Lord, you will not be satisfied. So what do we have to do then? Glorify the Lord. You won't be satisfied if you glorify somebody else. They won't be happy, and you won't be happy. Okay, so convince. Now, the next one, this starts our new section, 8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. And we have 2 slides for that. Everything comes what? Emanates. We'll use a few gestures. Everybody do this with me? Emanates. Everything emanates from Krishna. And one who knows this engages in what? My devotional service. How? With all your heart. Not just haphazardly or begrudgingly or with all your heart. Emanates. And we have a couple of pictures for that one. Sometimes I found a number of pictures just because I couldn't choose. How about the next one? What's our key word? Everybody go like this. Everybody. Thoughts. What are our thoughts? The thoughts of what? The pure devotees. They're devoted to my service, and what do they get? Satisfaction and bliss by talking about Krishna. Okay, and the next one, number 10. Right, he gives people what? Understanding on doing what? How to do your math? Know how to come to him. Right, very good. Somebody's awake here. Understanding. Now here you see Lord Chaitanya with Haridas Thakur. He was directly taken to the Lord. Okay? And the last one, to show them special what? Mercy. This is the sadhu. Sloka 5:18. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, he sees equally. In the heart, Krishna knows your sentiment. He helps you, even if you're not a scholar. He will give you enlightenment from within. Okay, next. Now this is a new section. This is the section of acceptance. Arjuna is going to listen, accept, and ask for descriptions. I accept you are what? Everybody go like this? Everybody believe it? Is the little boy with the flute the Supreme Personality of Godhead? You sure? You're fortunate. Right, and he glorifies him. You're the purest, absolute. You're eternal, transcendental, unborn, the greatest. Whoa, and you're just my friend. Okay, next. And who says so? Yeah, people like Narada say so. Narada's pretty advanced. And Asita, Devala, Vyas, they say it. Now you're telling me, of course I'm going to believe it. Next. What do I do now? Everybody? I accept what you say. Okay, I accept what you say. That neither the demigods or the demons can understand you. So how are we going to understand you if they can't? And he's going to say now, but why can you know yourself? How does Krishna know himself? Through his internal potency, Radharani. That's why he comes as Lord Chaitanya. He wants to understand himself through the mercy of Radharani. He takes the golden color. And we have 3 slides like that where you see Lord Chaitanya. And there he is. He's watching Radha Krishna pastimes in Vrindavan. And there's another one where he's having a dream and he sees Radha and Krishna. Actually, Lord Chaitanya came to taste the glories and the bliss of Radharani's love. He had to understand himself through her, his internal potency. Only he can know himself through her. So how can we know him? Through who? Radharani, right. That's why we pray to her. Now, opulences. Right now, he said, here's opulences. He wants to know of Krishna's opulences. In Kali Yuga, flowers are considered the jewels. Flowers are considered the jewels. I want to know your divine opulences by which you pervade this world. Okay? Next. How should we do what? Yeah, are we supposed to think of Krishna? How often? All the time. Is this helping you? Yes, it should. That's the idea. How did the gopis think of him? All the time. They were so absorbed that they were imitating him, carrying each other on their back, playing his pastime. They couldn't stop thinking of Krishna. We should be so fortunate, right? We have to try. Okay, next. Please describe your many opulences. Okay, and next. Because, just like the materialist, he wants more, more, more. Is he satisfied? No, because his love of God has been perverted into lust. But love can also not be satisfied. Here, just going the other way, I want to hear more and more about you because I want to taste the nectar of your words. I'm never satisfied. I want more and more and more. So the point is it going to be love of God or lust for the material energy? That we have to decide. And next, now Krishna will say, I will give you an idea of what my splendorous manifestations. So he's going to do that, all right? Now you see some of the waterfalls, very beautiful. All you have to do is go to a waterfall in the world. There's so many, and there's no God. How can that be? Or look at the ocean, tides coming in, or look at the stars. Okay, he's what? He's the super soul. We've just picked, now these are the slokas where there's at least 4 things per sloka. So we're going to run through these quickly because it's pretty simple. He's the super soul, and he's also the beginning, middle, and end. Next, he is who? Vishnu. There he is. Of the Adityas, he is. We're hearing about that in the morning in the Bhagavatam. Right, Bali Maharaj and Vamana. And next, of the Vedas, he's which one? Samaveda. Very good. And of the next, what's the next one? Of the Rudras, who is he? Shiva. Of the Rudras, he's Shiva. Now you see there are many others listed. Kuvera, Agni, Meru. Okay. Next. Of the sages? No, this is not the sages. Priests. Priests. Who is the priest? Brihaspati. Right. Brihaspati of the priests. Nobody to be the chief. Brihaspati. Next. Right. Of what sacrifice? I picked 3. We have Lord Chaitanya chanting. And we also have a Jiva chanting. And we also have Prabhupada chanting. Right. Chanting. All right, next. Of the trees, which one? Of the banyan. Right, Ashvata, or the holy fig. The banyan tree. He said, of all of them, I'm the prominent one, the most principal one. And next. I've never seen a horse like this. This was the only picture I could find. It's a fountain. But from the milk ocean, this is the horse that came out. And what's its name? Ujjaishrava, right? He came out of the churning of the milk ocean. All right? And of the weapons, which one? The thunderbolt. He's the thunderbolt. And who's that with the thunderbolt? Yeah, you heard it a few nights ago, I think. You hear Indra with his thunderbolt. And of the hooded Nagas, which one? He's Ananta, right. And of the, what's the next one? Of the Daityas, who is he? Prahlad. The sweet little boy, Prahlad. So even in the family of demons, you'll get a pure devotee. And of wielders of weapons, which one? Lord Ram. Okay, and next? And of the sciences, which one? Yeah, the science of the self. Bhagavad-Gita. Huge eye. And the next one of letters, which one? A, right, you have that, the original sound. First letter of Sanskrit. First sound, ah. Ah. Okay, next. And he's all devouring death. Every one of us here has to die. Prabhupada said it took us millions of births to get this body. Not a few, not by accident. We've had to go through the whole evolutionary scale millions of times, but it's temporary. We don't know when we're going to die. Are we going to die? Yes. Do we know when?
No.
Should we gamble with it? No. It's very risky if you don't make use of this opportunity. It's rarely attained and easily lost. Next. Of poetry, which one? Gayatri, yes. And I have 2 pictures for that. Prabhupada teaching Yadubar, the mantra. And he's, of gambling, right? Of the cheat. And there's Balaram. Balaram, you don't want to mess with him. He's pretty powerful. All right? And of the descendants of Vrishni, in this verse, Prabhupada said it's Baladev, it's not Krishna. Because he says Krishna doesn't leave Vrindavan. It's Baladev, Vasudev. All right, next. This I thought was a good example. Who's the picture there? Who's that? Who is it? Yudhisthira. Yes, he's talking to Bhishmadev on the battlefield. Yudhisthira was famous for being what? Very moral, to the point of not wanting to tell a lie. Right? Morality. I mean, I tried to find what I thought was the epitome of each of these qualities for you to look at. All right? And he's what? He's the seed of all existence. You'll get that also in the 14th chapter. Okay? He's the seed of everything. And he says, but guess what? This is just an indication of my infinite opulence. Just a small amount. Indication of my infinite opulences. You know, I've listed this, but this is nothing for me. I'm not struggling. Anybody here have a hard time just even getting up anymore? Getting out of a chair? For Krishna, this is nothing. And he will say no in the next one. And it's just what? It's a spark of my splendor. Anything you see in this world that's beautiful, opulent, glorious, it's nothing for me. It's a spark. And guess what? Everybody hold up your left pinky finger. By my energy, I support and pervade the entire creation. He's not like Atlas holding up the world and he's tired, Fragment. He's telling you, spark, fragment, tiny. It's nothing for him. Okay, so that we did a run through on all of those. So let's take a peek now at that video. Would you like to quickly see it? It's 6:30, but I think we have time to incorporate the little video. What we're going to do in this video is stop it every once in a while. It's about 5 minutes. It is really beautiful. How many of you have seen it? Some of you have seen it before. It's an early one, and the reason I chose it is because Prabhupada stressed through the tongue, through eating prasadam and chanting Hare Krishna, you will realize God. And she noted when he went to this ashram that Prabhupada was smiling, he was dealing with Dr. Mishra nicely, he was very friendly with everybody, he was laughing, joking, but 2 times he was serious. You couldn't break his meditation. When he was chanting, she said he was in another world, and when he was cooking, they would ask him questions, he wouldn't talk. And when the prasadam was being distributed, he would cook. He cooked for them while he was there. Everybody loved his cooking. He made sure everybody finished every morsel. Now 1 grain was lost. And he never, you'll see pictures of him, he never smiled. Very serious. Very serious. So you see Prabhupada chanting, and prasadam. He took it seriously. Okay, so let's take a look. And we'll be taking some little breaks here. New York, upstate, 1965. And look at how beautiful Prabhupada still. Okay, there's the ashram. On weekends, these people would be sure you get prasadam, Mataji, before you go. Yeah, you have to, if someone has to leave, make sure they get prasadam. You'll see in these videos that these were people's impressions of Prabhupada before he became world famous. So that's important. What were the impressions of people who knew him before? And she's a lady, and her impressions of him are amazing. And that's why I chose it, because you can see how Prabhupada could deal so well with all kinds of people. He was an expert gentleman. All right, so let us now proceed. This is the ashram, upstate New York. Wealthy people would go there on the weekend. They would go there and this is the lady narrating. There is Prabhupada in 1965. And that is Mr. Dr. Mishra. And she say he was smiling and laughing. Okay, you stop it there. Dr. Mishra would say, okay, Swamiji, just 20 minutes, you know. Because they didn't want Prabhupada to speak. Because Prabhupada was speaking not their philosophy. Right? They were doing Hatha Yoga, but they were not accepting the Patanjali system as it is to unite with the Supreme. They don't talk about that. So here she is, and she said he would start chanting, but it would go longer than that. Okay, next.
At most 20 minutes, Swamiji. But Swamiji could look at him very sincerely and say, I know people need rest, it is late. I will do a little bit chanting. But it was to no avail, because when Swamiji went into that divine chanting, the bhakti chanting, he lost all sense of time and space every time he chanted. And it was seldom that it was less than an hour. And Guruji knew, it was his joke with Swami Bhakti-yoga. He was serious only when he was chanting.
You want to stop it there? He was serious only when he was chanting. And you'll see these older people here trying to do yoga. They've got an older yoga teacher there. These are elderly, rich people. That's how they spend their weekend at a retreat. I'm sure it's very expensive. Upstate New York? Okay, go ahead.
Consciousness. But when he was relating to people, and certainly relating to Guruji, his face would light up. He had a radiance because he was happy. When Swamiji was happy, it showed. He, I guess because he did a lot of traveling on his own, had become self-sufficient in the kitchen. And he also loved, absolutely loved, to make meals for Guruji.
Now here he is in the kitchen. Now here we see them, you can stop it. We see their kitchens, very big. And Swamiji would cook. He would make enough for 20 people. And they would try to talk to him and ask him questions. He wouldn't answer. He was serious. He wouldn't answer. And you see there's kitchens. He would cook the meal for all of them. Go ahead.
Swamiji was cooking, and he could serve about 20 people, although he was cooking mainly for Guruji. And we would gather around as he was cooking. We wanted to learn from him what he was doing. So we would ask him questions, and he wouldn't answer, because we totally absorbed in his moment-to-moment activity. And although we were in the happy mood because we were anticipating
You can stop it there. There's Prabhupada seated. He's making sure not one morsel goes in vain. He was not stop until everybody finished every morsel. And he's very serious. Go ahead.
Finished. And it was just one point that he never repeated. I always felt about him, he was a deeply serious man. Serious about life. He never talked about his past, his personal life. I did ask him once or twice a question here and there, and he waved it away. He said, not important. That's not important. And then I began to feel it wasn't important. What was important was what he was doing now. Because only once, when he touched me so much, I asked if I could hug him.
Okay, you can stop it there. She asks him, first of all, before this, she said she would ask him questions about his former life. He said, not important. He said, what I'm doing now is important. He didn't consider his past important. Now she's going to, Westerners, they show affection by hugging each other. Sort of a new age type of thing. So she asks Prabhupada, can I hug you? You know what he said? Why not? But she said the way he did was quite different. So go ahead.
Said something like, why not? Because nobody touched him usually. Angie did. He was in his arm around him. But this was after I knew him for a while. But it was the Indian way of hugging. Somehow they managed to hug you and be miles apart in the hug. But at the same time, although the bodies were kept apart, it's only really the shoulders that come together. It's Indian style. But I felt Swamiji's love. He was a tender man, he was a caring man, and an innocent man. And in the company of innocency, you relax completely. And so I was always relaxed. That's how I figured out.
Okay. You can see how Prabhupada looks different from everybody else, doesn't he? I mean, he looks like a Buddha, the long ears, the high forehead. He doesn't look like an ordinary personality. Okay, and we have here, this was a little thing I found on, don't take advantage of eating and sleeping. Your life will be successful. My duty, I've given you so valuable things, day and night, trying to convince you, each word to word. And if you don't take advantage of this, then what can I do? So Prabhupada has done his part, has he? What do we have to do? Our part. So we'll just have one quick little 1-minute video, and then that will conclude our session for today. Okay? We got our last little video there. Prabhupada says, what is our only business? What is our only business? Okay?
Danger is duplication of birth and death. That has to be stopped. And not this so-called danger. This is all. The material world is full of dangers. It's like if you are on the ocean. If you are on the ocean, you might have a very strong sea, very safe sea. But that is not safety, because you are on the sea. At any time there can be danger. But as you remember from your country, there was, what is that, Titanic?
The Titanic, right? You've all heard of the Titanic.
But on the first one, it was drowned. And all important men of the country, they lost their lives. So in that there must be, because you are in a dangerous position. This material world itself is
This
dangerous.
world is a dangerous position.
So our business is, the danger must be there. Our business should be how to cross over this as well. That's a fact. You should not be disturbed by the sea wave. Just try to cross over the sea, go to the other side. That is it.
That is your business. So we want to go from here to here. Okay? All right, everybody? Did you find this helpful for chapter 10? Very good. Hare Krishna.